Today's video is being brought to you with help from G Fuel. As most of you know, I actually use this product myself, typically during creation and editing aspects of my videos, and have found it quite useful when not feeling like I want to work. If you too are interested in getting your hands on some, either to try it out and see if it's right for you or to resupply your favorite flavor and are looking for a bit of a discount, please use the code TheDsIEGE and get 20% off your next purchase, while at the same time supporting this channel and helping me continue to create the content you've all come to enjoy. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested, and thank you in advance for any who choose to purchase using my code. I very much appreciate your support. Without further ado, on to the feature presentation.
Ve Victus!
Oh, the Leverian. It was floundering. You understand? Going under. All that work I put into it, and so few visited, let alone donated. Oh, I don't mean you, of course. I know you're a friend to the Leverian. You just wasn't enough. So when Parvos made me an offer, I thought, oh, why not? Just let it go. Let it all go. I took the deal, Tenno. I shouldn't have, but I did. Oh, if only Dante was still around. Please, you must come see me.
You're damn right it wasn't me. I was donating millions of credits to this place every time I went in, so I have to admit, when this is all taken care of, we may have to form some kind of committee as far as what's going on with the budget. I imagine you have all given a fair amount as well, and if you want to let me know in the comments roughly how much, maybe we can get a good idea of exactly what he's been given multiverse-wide. Having that knowledge would allow us to establish a budget, don't you think?
Oh.
Hey all, Siege here, and today it's time to talk about Drusus Leverian. What exactly happened to his namesake exhibit in the newest update, and the rather troublesome ending that was added with Dante Unbound. We actually received a fair bit of lore context, and not just with this character, but I think most will agree with me when I say that the reveal of Drusus was a bit of a shock. And that's not just counting who or maybe what he turns out to be. However, as unexpected as it was, this reveal is not nearly close to the most intriguing aspect of the overall narrative, quite literally found within the story we're presented with. First, Drusus is, at least at this point in his life, a Cephalon or Cephalon type entity. However, he was once a man of flesh and blood.
Hello, friend. You find me now amidst the bones of all I am, of the thing that mattered most to me in my too long life. You know, I wasn't sure it was possible to be less than a man, for I was a man once. This room was to be a shrine to one of my dearest friends, but now that shall never come to pass.
As Lloyd describes him,
the Drusus I knew was a genius. A quick, bright-eyed little man with a taste for fancy waistcoats. I wonder if he even remembers those days now. Or cares to.
Another of the many significant reveals of Dante Unbound, lore-wise at least, is that the Leverian doesn't really exist. At least not in the way it's presented, if nothing else.
I've made such a terrible mistake, you see. In a universe at its own throat, where every living thing works daily to keep body and soul together, there's not much appetite for history, for stories. The Leverian may not be a real place, a place you can reach out and touch, but to reality it was anchored. And reality demands a tithe. It takes coin to keep this place rest. This shrine to memory. And a savvy businessman I was not. To be less than a man is to be a fool. And fool I was.
These Leverian rooms, I would akin to something on the line of what Cephalons Suda or even Samaris utilizes. Datascapes, or a type of visualization of data. If our Captura is lore accurate, I'd say these areas, as well as the numerous simulacrum, all function in a similar or the same manner. They are snapshots in time. Digital projections representing a memory or designed environment generated from pure data. Data that can be displayed and essentially visited at any time the operator feels they need to. Perhaps to hone their skills or abilities, or try out new weapons, in order to have a feel for them in their intricacies before actual live fire. Also, it would provide the ability to revisit certain places they've been to in order to be able to look for clues and better analyze previous locations, in order to glean as much information from them as possible, thereby strongly increasing the chances of learning something new, something previously unnoticed. Not unlike what we experienced during Glassmaker, where we learned the true history of Cephalons. First, they were originally created by an Orcan named Nihil, and, perhaps more importantly, they were once human beings, transformed into data as a punishment for extreme violations of Orcan law.
They called us mercenaries, but for us, profit was a consequence, not a goal. We were warriors above all else. It was the bond, the sisters and brothers, the rituals we valued most. Why? Believe me, this was the plan from the beginning. The murder and brutality was all a ploy, all a soul sacrifice to earn their trust. A genocide path leading to a singular opportunity. An honored mortal called to a forbidden hall to face the Golden Lords in flesh. I was their loyal, murderous dog, until the day that ugly child was brought to me. He was caught spying on us, amplifying our losses. His face burned. He was starved sick like a stray. Ugly as I. It struck me. We were all pit dogs, ruining ourselves for the pleasure of the glorious and beautiful. And just like that, my mind twisted a new knot. I would have one last stand, something unforgivable, unforgettable. I glide on red wings, robes shed, making me an ambiguous target to Dax steel. I let fly my ivory blades. They find new homes in Dax eyes. I land with my red nakedness, delicate Orocan throats twisting in my calloused hands in an instant. Naked and bare-knuckled, I have killed immortals. I stare, drained of blood, of life, at those that remain. But I find no horror on their faces. Why? I let out a cruel howl and they laugh? Is this a dying hallucination? The sound of applause grows among them. I have killed the unkillable, and they are delighted. The applause peaks and fades. I feel a sense of shame, but the end is upon me. Ballas is above me, executor of the Seven, smiling. He says, "How simple and pure you are, you idiot beast. We have died countless times, yet remain eternal. I close my eyes to die, just once." "Drink," says Ballas. So I draw on the red vial, a vague metallic taste. "This dream isn't mine," he says. "You rejected our gift, bathing in our death. Your punishment is eternal life. He laughs.
I am weightless. Years pass. I am a sightless, limbless phantom. Or is it seconds? Suddenly, I feel a million pins, an ant horde jittering across my body. I want to laugh and scream. When they reach my face, they burrow inside my mouth, hungry for the fruit in my skull.
Oh, it's hard to take anything she says completely literally. Nora explains,
Heard of those cubes? You know, Cephalons, right? Probably got one a bit cracked, kissing up to you all the time. See, in the old days, crime and punishment was all in the hands of those Orican judges, the Seven. Mercy was the quick flash of the jade light. But if they wanted to make an example, they'd suck up your soul and make you a prisoner of the glass forever.
meaning Drusus must have done something quite egregious to the Orican. Now, he's gotten in the worst kind of trouble, with, at least at this stage, the worst guy, perhaps in the Origin system, if Ballas is truly gone. With a Leverian being as expensive as it is to maintain, and feeling like there was dwindling interest in his life's work, Drusus opted into a deal of his own with the re-established leader of the Corpus. Wait, another deal? Keep that in your minds, dear friends. Now, this one would include signing the rights of the Leverian away, should he not be able to make payments on time in recompense for Granum's help with maintaining what remains of his treasured museum. And now, regret from this decision has forced him into a position of asking us for help.
I imagine you surmised why I have summoned you here. To ask that, in the name of whatever friendship we share, to lend your aid to my impossible predicament. To help preserve, not me, not this shadow of a man I once was, but to keep this monument to history alive, so that future generations may learn from it and never repeat our most shameful mistakes. Granum's obsession with that bygone age demands pieces of such. Ironic, really, that one man's interest in history serves only to strip an edifice whose singular purpose was to protect it. But there remains one slim hope: the sourcing of artifacts from places other than the Leverian, sourced by you at my direction. Help me, friend. Help me, that my one great and final mistake not be the error that turns our collective history and the work of lifetimes to a single miserable use, making a rich man richer.
Learning he can't possibly locate what Granum wants nearly fast enough to satisfy his debt. Although, before even that's possible, Granum, or more likely associates on his behalf, decided to relocate some inventory in the form of defacing and essentially robbing Dante's exhibition specifically. Fortunately for the timid creator, Granum has appeared to agree in allowing us to stake his debt, and with Lloyd's blessing, Drusus offers him artifacts from what are assumedly the deepest reaches of Entradi's labs, unearthing them by using arterial conduits.
Arterial conduits. Albrecht's interlab transport and storage system for high-value goods and materials. If you can get them working, you should be able to find what Drusus needs. And more.
Almost like a combined form of storage and shipping simultaneously within the figurative veins of the lab. The reason we are presented with capillaries during the mission. In the human body, these tiny blood vessels deliver oxygen and nutrients throughout its expanse, and here it would appear they are responsible for moving whatever is stored within this artery system in the same manner. Considering its behavior in the whispers in the walls,
How about you give me the page instead, kiddo? Consider it part of our deal.
it would seem the indifference too is interested in what's kept within these pathways, as well as really any bit of information it can get its hands on. something this tale's ending will reinforce in a rather distressing way. Interestingly, the narration we are given in itself isn't presented as a campaign or even story aside from the manner in which it's initiated. Repeated runs of the new mission mode, Armistice, reveal more and more of a kind of back and forth between Drusus and Granum in regards to their negotiations, and probably more importantly, what Granum is actually trying to find. This is not the only area he's been said to be searching for trinkets associated with the Void, and in Trotty, as not too long ago, we learned that he was also turning the Zeraman over for items of unknown nature or value, battling the remaining Grineer Queen in her dominion in order to claim it for his own. How many of these relics, or what specifically will satisfy Granum's price, is really unclear, and if you think about it, makes whatever else we're finding for him just blind payment. So, what does Granum have planned? If nothing else, he's obviously rebuilding his empire through commerce, selling some of what he finds to prospective buyers, but then one would have to wonder who can afford such artifacts, especially now, and for what purpose. But it also begs the question if Granum has altered his original tenets, as he even said, perhaps it is time for a new philosophy.
Perhaps the rot is too deep. Perhaps the father should abandon his children. Perhaps it is time for a new philosophy.
In truth, it would appear the cost is completely open-ended, and also completely subjective according to his desire, which really places Parvos Granum less in the light of a noble leader as he tries to convey to both his people and the Tenno, and more like that of a tyrant. A better discernment of his current state of mind, and by extension intentions, can be had by understanding some context behind the supposed father of Nef-Anyo.
Day after day, we toiled. My father, my brother Claudius, pulling grains for the Orican takers in the city, as our kind had done for generations. We were young, but the work made us old. Our backs ached, our hands bled, the sun tortured our skin. In the worst times, it felt as though death would claim us before the day was through. It was on one such afternoon that I was fated to first hear that glorious sound. A whisper I strained to hear in a tongue not of man, but of something else, something grander, a language I understood instinctively, the language of desire. It said, "Fear not poverty. Poverty is the bitter soil in which sweet desire blossoms." The more we toiled, the more impatient I grew. A fire raged inside me. I wanted more. I deserved more. But how? The whisper washed over me, louder now than before. Fortune despises the idle man. Stasis is death. Always move forward. And so, with only the whisper to guide me, I straightened my back, wiped the dirt from my hands, and left.
Granum was the original founder of the Corpus faction, as well as the inventor of the Spectre technology, named the Spectre Particle, one that makes it possible for near-perfect mimicry of most creatures, at least in form and basic function, and deploy them when deemed necessary. These are typically mere reflections of the original, especially in regards to the Warframes, but are still dangerous and useful in the right circumstances, and, theoretically at least, come without the requirements of morality or the ability to disobey, making them extremely valuable, especially to those without the help of the Tenno or some form of extreme force multiplication. It's Incredibly advanced technology for someone as common as he is originally portrayed. An everyman that one day became disenfranchised with how the rule of order was being utilized by what he considers his overly oppressive Orcan masters.
The city, those towers, I was struck with awe. What glorious totems of greed these Orcan had built. Built on our backs. Their wealth was my wealth. I was starved while our masters were fat and full and warm. They flaunted their wealth, left it sitting there for the taking. Priceless gemstones decorating the tower gates. I was afraid, but the whisper gave me courage. Be envious, covet, then take what you desire. So that is what I did.
And sets his mind on changing everything.
I was brash and bold. I struck it midday. I cried, I take what I am owed, as I ripped jewels from their tower gates and ran. I did not get far. For my blasphemy, they dragged me to the tower square, throwing me to the ground in front of the sneering crowd of Oregon servants that mingled there. The guards held aloft my satchel, containing the proof of my crime. I grasped at it, determined to reclaim what was mine. He snatched my arm, held me high, and, with a dash of his plasma dagger, severed my left hand. The crowd jeered, yet I felt no pain, only clarity, for the whisper was with me again. It said, "Deception is the sword of wisdom. Be wise." They took my hand that day, but they did not take what I had earned.
And he did. By allowing himself to be put through incredible pain, swallowing a stolen gem from the Oregon elite, and getting caught by them as well, having his hand severed in the process, the promised price for such a flagrant action against his soon-to-be former masters. That being said, his sacrifice was rewarded with the very riches and stability he would build his new empire upon.
In desire, I was wealthy, but in strategy, I was empty-handed. I listened for the whisper. It said, "Money begets money." With my jewel as collateral, I secured a loan, and with that sum, I gave my own loans to poor men like me who desired more. With each loan, I dispensed truths I had learned from the whisper. Those men went out into the world and they too made loans, and their money too begat money. Word spread fast. Men flocked to hear me. I told them of the evils of contentment and idleness. I taught them the gift of desire.
This inner voice pushing him past the limits of what he believed he could attain, almost like ambition manifested, and he built all of this upon his pillars.
My gift to the future is an idea that wealth need not settle as a crust upon the upper echelons of the populace. No. Any poor grain farmer can, should he feed his desire and apply his wisdom, take fortune for himself. The more, the better. And when men of fortune come together under great leadership, their potential is exponential. Just as my money replaced what the Oregon took from me and made my body whole again, our collective desire will create a new body. A body forged of fortune and unencumbered by idleness or sentimentality. Ours is the grasping golden hand. We are desire. We are Corpus.
Enshrining this set of special tenets that one should always follow for the sake of profit, one the vast majority of the corpus still exists under today. So, now we have a better understanding of the man that has both Drusus, and by extension us, on the hook for whatever Parvos decides the Leverian is worth. Which has to be a substantial amount because, as mentioned earlier, mere credits don't seem to satisfy this debt. Rather, old Orican artifacts. What's more, he appears to be searching for something in particular. The question we have to consider is, what is it he's looking for? If he sticks to his original tenets and by extension belief structure, it would appear he's collecting these items for either their value monetarily or in their technology. Really anything that could be repurposed to help his contingent in essentially gaining more profit. To Granum, there is no enough. Rather, he takes what can be taken, and does not contemplate the fates of those he takes it from, because he deems it the right of anyone willing to manifest their deepest desire and ambition through hard work and dedication to said desire. Interestingly enough, we can satisfy at least one of the things Drusus was interested in preserving, that of Dante himself, once we are able to retrieve his parts from the depths of Entrati's labs, or presumably buy them from the store with platinum. By returning to his Leverian exhibit, we come to find a single Prex card buried in the sand upon his display stand with the truth of what actually happened to Dante.
You found him, friend. And Dante's tale deserves to be known. So, allow me to relate it as he passes it to me. Dante ventured to the deafeningly silenced halls of the doomed Entrati lineage, encountering automated defenses gone senile and violent, chanting in an unright dialect that slurred thought and annihilated hope. That wrong-tongued language invaded Dante's mind, infecting it with the one thing he was defenseless against, the promise of knowledge. It may be said that a parasite is life from without the body, fighting to exist within the body, despite the body, even as it risks the body. What, then, do we call knowledge from beyond our reality, demanding to be let in? Poor Dante. If only he had recited to me sooner the wrong-tongued words he had heard. I could have told him, you know, that I had heard that language before. Once, long ago, from the lips of Parvos Granum. Dante found it, you see. Dante found the book. The Dante I knew was many things, but he was not weak. He struggled, fought, refused its knowledge. There was a moment, I knew, when that chill indifference felt it had won. In those moments, I was with him, wrestling the foul thing he had unlocked. Impossibly, Though it cost him dearly, he was winning. But miserably. I knew the equation was not so simple as that. I told him, Dante, what you have found can never be brought forth. Parvos must never know of this. I felt the chill, the awful loneliness of understanding wash through him. I sensed the moment he chose, and I felt Dante give up. When he died, I almost died with him. But the book, the word, did not permit Dante to die. The violent diplomacy which ensued rewrit the very fabric of who he was. I understood things, learned things on that journey with my old friend from night to day. Things which could not survive in this world, but have forever made a lie to me of science. What became of him and what stars he may have traveled to is unknown to me. What that wrong-tongued voice may murmur in his mind on long nights, I'm not sure I would want to know. But I know it teaches. It teaches because it longs to be known. And in being known, it exists. And in existing, it survives.
It's tough to say if this is a recollection or if this is some type of time manipulation that's happening as we are hearing it, but is this what Granum desires? The reason this area was so aggressively vandalized? I have long postulated that Parvus Granum just had to be more than what he appeared to be, having an incredible intellect on par with that of Ballas and Albrecht and Trotty, and feeling something was just not right about this character. The fact that he too had a missing hand and then in ways utilized that as a doorway seemed too eerily similar to how Entrati utilized a finger to do a very similar thing with void travel. And with Granum seeming to have his own pockets of the void handy to himself, well, basic logic would surmise that he had to have been receiving help from somewhere. Now that we know Granum has been speaking in void tongue, potentially for a very long time, the same language even Entrati wasn't certain of, it really leaves only two possibilities. One, Granum knows this from relics he had previously either stolen or purchased from those who had or maybe granted themselves access to the underbelly of the Necrolysk on Deimos. Or, Parvus has also been visited by the Indifferents, making his search for remnants of Entrati's technology amongst both the Zeraman and these labs make complete sense, and adds what I feel is important context to the really odd final scene of the Call of Tempestari. Where Granum's voice takes on a particular effect that the man in the wall has long been known for. One you don't hear when he's normally talking. How deep in is he? Is this voice he refers to in his reliefs the one driving him to his ascension? The same voice that so many accuse Entrati of hearing? If that's true, it would mean he was under the influence of the Indifferents long before even the Old War. Although that last part still is pure speculation based on context of the information we've been given as a whole. It's odd to me that a man like Drusus, who spent lifetimes acquiring these items for their importance, would decide to let it all go in a low moment, as he explains what actually caused this situation in the first place.
I do not know what possessed me in that moment. I have no need for money, or food, or shelter, or care. Perhaps I merely felt my time was done, that the past had served its use, and me along with it. Whatever the reason, I allowed myself an instant to feel my misery to be greater than my life's purpose. A momentary indulgence that may be paid by every future generation until the sun goes dark.
Now, I'm not saying this is an impossible thing, and Drusus wouldn't be the first to act in this manner, especially if financial burdens were piling up, but consider that when visited by the Man in the Wall, it typically occurs at a period of high stress and, by extension, high emotionality, something appearing to be inextricably tied to the Void entity and even warned against when in contact with the Void, although at this point the exact reason why is not known. If I can speculate for a second, by altering one of my preconceived notions regarding the indifference, where I initially believed he or she only appeared to individuals as their glowing-eyed twin, the Tenno and Entrati being the most glaring examples of that, I've come to realize that it most likely can visit anyone in any form it's already assimilated, as well as the target itself, such as when Entrati's doppelganger made itself visible. So a version of the indifference utilizing Parvos' form would explain his appearances to both Drusus as well as Valaglarios, offering help at their lowest points. Drusus explaining to us the final moments of Dante touches on something very important. Firstly, that at least one Warframe already fought the indifference. Whereas I felt we had an actual answer to a previous video I did regarding Warframes and what free will they may or may not have during a bit of dialogue that could be heard while visiting Lloyd.
Drusus never seems to distinguish between the deeds of the Warframes and of the Tenno who presumably operated them. He credits them all with autonomy and dignity.
It turns out he somewhat contradicts this by adding further information later.
Dante's works on ancient Earth archaeology were some of the finest in their field. Many back then refused to accept a mere Warframe could have written them.
So, unfortunately, based on what he says, the question still remains. Are there Warframes that function without Tenno? He implies that Drusus couldn't differentiate between Warframe and Tenno, but also says that Dante's demeanor was much different from other Warframes, and that there was some kind of event that potentially triggered the Warframe's madness en masse.
I remember when we learned of the Warframe insurrections. Their madness, savage and sudden, justifying all the Orokin fear. All their heroic deeds were forgotten in an instant. Those, like Dante, who had yet to succumb, became fugitives. To shelter them meant death, or glassing.
So, did this madness occur within a certain period of time after having the Hellman strain injected in them? Or was there some actual event that turned them all ravenous, potentially even around the same time? Clearly, Drusus believed Dante was an intelligent and well-mannered Warframe.
Warframes cannot speak, as a rule. Their creator decided they should only scream or roar or howl. Dante spoke through his writing, and his voice was beautiful.
With Lloyd supporting this information, but was that Dante or his Tenno? Who was Dante's operator, and is he too lost to the Void, or just unrecovered from his pod on Lua? The scene we are given during the prelude to the New War, specifically the era portion, suggests that there were a great many Tenno reclaimed from the original Zariman's return, so are there Tenno out there that still need reawakened? And if so, how many? Given what we already know, as well as the context of what Lloyd says, taken in its entirety, I feel still doesn't verify a singular truth one way or another, as there's just too many ways to interpret what's being said. So that question still remains for essentially all the frames, aside from maybe Umbra. Perhaps Warframe 1999 will provide the definitive proof needed to finally put this conspiracy to bed, one way or another. As far as the Leverian and Drusus is concerned, as long as we keep helping him make payments, in theory, things should go back to normal. Although, we should probably really contemplate if giving Granum all kinds of stuff the Indifference was already searching for is the best idea, and if maybe we aren't all better off in the long run, even Drusus, with just letting it go. After finding the devil within the details of this story, I'm not really sure that's a good thing either. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video and it got you thinking about what's to come, specifically with another major character showing evidence of an encounter with the Indifference. Will Granum join the multitude at some point? I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. At any rate, I hope you all have a wonderful day today, a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk at you all in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.